Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, talking a little Florida Gators as they're getting active in the transfer portal in the spring window as RJ Moten, a former starting safety for the Michigan Wolverines, obviously that's our team, we know him very well, transfers into Florida. And Dill, I think we can both say this is a very good get for the Florida Gators. Like RJ Moten's played a lot of significant football for Michigan, decided to go a different way in terms of personnel in that defense. And the Florida Gators reaped the benefit of a very, very good safety who has a lot of experience coming into a unit that, again, very talented group of safeties for Florida. Maybe not the experience there. RJ Moten certainly supplies that. Going to be talking a little RJ Moten. Then we're going to be talking a little bit about what Florida needs to do with the rest of the players in the transfer portal, some potential targets for them now before we get into it again. Just want to say thank you to you guys. Got over 5,000 subscribers on the channel. Can't thank you guys enough for all the support you guys have shown, the transfer portal, the recruiting, especially the Gator fans. We've been talking a lot of 2024 class recruiting for the Florida Gators. You guys have been absolutely awesome with the support, so if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dale, I'm going to kick this one off to you. Let's start with the RJ Moten news. We didn't get a chance to talk about it yesterday. How are we feeling for that move for the Florida Gators here?
I mean, this is just straight up a really good player who's played a lot of football. And this is a unit now at Florida that's got to replace two pros and two guys who've played there for a long time.
I was a guy.
And I think RJ Moten's a good kind of bridge player. I don't think he's quite the talent that Florida kind of has coming in the pipeline in the safety position in terms of being an NFL guy. I just don't know that he's that type of athlete. But at the college level, he's going to be a really good player to kind of bring everyone along in that room and let them kind of get rolling and come in the future and be those guys on the Florida teams that I think Florida fans are kind of hoping.
Yeah, and you talk about, I thought RJ Moten, although kind of phased out towards the back half of the year for Michigan, still one of the leaders in the locker room. I mean, only a third-year guy, but a lot of people look to him for some leadership. He was a two-year starter for Michigan. He's played a lot of significant snaps at the Big Ten level, 2 interceptions, over 70 tackles. Like, this dude's played a lot of football. I think it's a really good addition. What I want to pivot to, though, a little bit is talking about this Florida Gators program and where they should be kind of looking at in the transfer portal, I should say, heading into the 2023 season. What position, and then we'll talk about some players that are available that you're taking a look at here.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's quarterback, and I'm a little surprised they didn't bring another guy in besides Mertz, because when you're rolling in with pretty much Mertz and not really anyone else to compete with him, I just don't know that that's where you want to be. It's like you saw enough of Mertz at Wisconsin at this point to think you're not getting a guy who's going to turn your team around. That's for sure. I think, again, you look, there's some guys out there, Casey Thompson, Peyton Thorne are the two that jump to mind as guys who I just think would come in and at least give some competition and some depth, because it's a position, obviously, that's awfully thin at Florida before the Lagway era begins.
Yeah, if you look at, I mean, if you're taking Wisconsin's quarterback scraps, if you will, and then going to go try to win football games in the SEC with that level quarterback play, I don't think it's going to go that well. And I think, I wonder, because I feel like this is just like kind of a gap year. And then Billy Napier has recruited the 2023 class extremely well. I thought that's one of the more underrated classes in the country. Like, yes, they lost Jaden Rashad, and I think that left a lot of sour taste in a lot of Gators fans' mouth. But you look at that class that Florida brought in 2023, a lot of guys, we watched the spring game. There's going to be a lot of guys who are 18-year-old kids playing meaningful snaps for the Gators this fall. And so I'm not down on that class. And then you look at the 2024 class, that's a class that could be special. Obviously headlined by the 5-star quarterback, DJ Lagway. I feel like this year for them is a little bit of a stopgap year, and maybe go get some better.
They've done a good job doing that so far. You look at a guy like Taraja Mitchell from Ohio State, really cracked at that program, but a guy, it feels like when he left Ohio State, coaches seemed like they were like, oh, this is a good player. He obviously can crack it here, but he's going to be a good leader. And again, that type of bridge player that they need. I think RJ Moten, we just talked about, they've obviously brought some offensive linemen in to kind of steady that ship. Like, I think so far they've been doing what they need to do. At the end of the day, you just got to hit on one of these quarterbacks, I think.
Yeah, the second group I'm looking at, and I think quarterback is certainly for discussion. Billy Napier even said after the spring game, like, we're looking to address that position in the transfer portal. I think the only problem is, like, the quarterback crop in this transfer portal is not great. I mean, you're taking either Casey Thompson or Peyton Thorne. Those are probably the only two guys that I'm thinking would be potential starters for Florida in the 2023 season. Otherwise, you're kind of settling for a guy like Hayden Wolf from Old Dominion. So I think Casey Thompson, Peyton Thorne, obviously Auburn's gunning for both of those guys. That would make a lot of sense there. I think they make a lot of sense at Florida. But the next group, the next position, I should say, that I want to talk about, though, is the wide receiving group. And that is a class that's absolutely loaded in the transfer portal.
And they've lost a lot of guys now, both portal, draft, and in the pass catching unit really didn't play good enough last year. I don't think most Florida fans would think. They did not give Anthony Richardson any help in terms of what he was doing. So I'm with you. I mean, the problem is, though, I don't see how you bring in these wide receivers who are kind of coming up on the end of their college career without stability at the quarterback spot. No.
That's what I wouldn't be most nervous about. Like, you take a look at some of the wide receivers that have hit the portal. Milton Wright from Louisville, Kentucky, transferring in from Purdue. He would be a nice option. Obviously, Keon Coleman.
These guys are pros. Like, they're pros if they have a really good year or finish their career. Yeah. And it's just with Graham Mertz. That's why I feel like it is important that they just got to do what they got to do to get one of these other two guys.
Because then it seems a little bit more attractive. I mean, Keon Coleman, the whole purpose he was transferred from Michigan State is you don't want to catch passes from Peyton Thorne anymore. I don't know if Graham Mertz is necessarily that big of an upgrade. Now, I've been kind of on record saying I'm optimistic about Graham Mertz. Like, I think he has the talent. I think it's really hard to kind of show out in that Wisconsin offense. Billy Napier in that offense is not going to ask too much of him. I don't think he's as bad as kind of the national media says. So I think he can be a serviceable starter and kind of just hold down the fort, if you will, until DJ Lagway comes in. But again, this is
depth. It's not even just like, I mean, Graham Mertz might be a fine bridge guy, but it's like he is the only one you really remotely trust at this point, given what their recruiting situation is and everything else that's gone on in that room, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's Graham Mertz, Jack Miller, and then the redshirt freshman Max Brown that we saw a little bit of him in the spring game. None of the quarterbacks I would say look that good, and it's not like they're getting that much help from the wide. Like Ricky Pearsall, I think is a proven guy, but I mean, you lose Xavier Henderson, Caleb Douglas. I'm excited to see the guys like Aiden Mazzell, Andy Jean, Eugene Wilson, the three young true freshman guys who are coming in. That's where I think Florida, and you saw Florida and Billy Napier take a look at that 2023 class and in the 2024 class, quite frankly, and say, we got to get some better wide receivers. Like a guy like Justin Short or someone I was so excited for the last couple of years for Florida, just never really developed. And so I think they're taking a look at this wide receiving group and say, we got to help our quarterback out, get some difference makers on the outside. I wouldn't be surprised if they add maybe one guy, but I could also see this, and we talked a little bit about it before the show. I could see just being like, hey, this is a young year. Let's just ride with the young guys, get them some good burn, and then get ready to kind of really win some football games in 2024 and 2025.
And I really wouldn't hate that approach because honestly, like Florida's not winning the SEC this year.
Yeah, whether you bring in a Keon Coleman or not, it's not.
Every Florida fan, no, and even those quarterbacks don't push Florida into that range. They're going to go really young in the secondary. We kind of know that, and I don't mind that. I think they're going to go fairly young with, I imagine Kelby Collins and some of those other young linemen are going to play. So
dogs.
I don't mind a young year. Like, why not? Because again, it's not going to be a team it's not a team that's ready right now. Dan Mullen did not fill that pipeline up with enough talent at this point. And Billy Napier, in fairness to him, looks like he has the recruiting going. So why not just get these young guys ready to play?
That's such a good point you made. Like, I think Billy Napier is getting raked on the coals for just, it's so unfair. I don't think enough people give.
There are a lot of Billy Napier haters, and I don't get it. Like,
I don't get it either. And I think that one of the takes was like that team was just talent-wise like not that good to win much more than like 8. Maybe they underperformed a little bit, and I think maybe you just got really excited after beating Utah at home the first week, and then like a little bit disappointing rest of the season. Like Anthony Richardson was as good and talented as he was. That would be the one concern. Like you had Anthony Richardson, who just went 4th overall, and you only won.
Everybody knew the consistency wasn't quite there. It's like you're obviously projecting him, and he had his moments of really good, and then games like Kentucky where it just, I mean, if he just plays solid, they don't lose that game, no shot. They were better than that Kentucky team.
Yeah, and then Billy Napier is, I think, crushing it in this 2024 class. Like you look at what this class could be. You already got 4 guys in the top 50 nationally committed. Top 15 class with only 7 commits. Like this class is going to be good. I like where the direction is going, and all the Billy Napier haters, I feel like just don't see enough of how bad of a spot Dan Mullen put this roster. Like from a roster development standpoint, at the end of Dan Mullen's tenure, like that was a dumpster fire.
And that's the thing. It cost him a lot in the transfer portal as he was heading out. It was a lot of their vets were leaving, and he just did not leave it in a good place at all. That's why he had to get fired midseason. But again, at the end of the day for Wisconsin or Florida, I should say, obviously, but I think just what they're doing, like guys like Taraja Mitchell, guys like RJ Moten, some of those D tackles they brought in, just a couple guys at some of the key spots, and maybe one more receiver. And obviously, if they can, quarterback, but if they can't, just go with Mertz and see what you can do. But again, if you just get a couple of those guys that maybe get you in that arena of 7-5, 8-4, and that's like just a solid year. You just don't. I don't think you want to see a 3-win season. And
that's when it starts hurting recruiting. Like if you go 6-6 again, I think you're selling that class of like, okay, like the next guys in are going to be the difference makers. If you really are not competitive, which I don't think Florida's there yet. Like I mean, this roster is not as good as I think a lot of Florida fans are used to, but I don't think they're like a 3-win team either. And so you study the ship here, and you get some young guys, some good burn. And then whether it's DJ Lagway, whether you maybe add a transfer quarterback next year to kind of battle out DJ Lagway, because I don't think Jack Miller's the truth either. I think Florida is going to be in a really good spot for the next couple of years. And I've even heard rumors that Austin Simmons, the top 100 quarterback from the 2025 class, is considering reclassifying the 2024 class, which then you got two stud quarterbacks who are young, going to battle it out, and you suddenly take a quarterback position that you feel horrible about heading into 2023. You're feeling really good about it heading into 2024. Again, very, very early in the Billy Napier tenure, but I think both of us pretty optimistic about where this program can go. You just got to give Billy Napier some time.
Recruiting the way Florida needs to recruit. That's a school that should be in the top 10 every year.
100%. And you're seeing that this 2024 cycle, they're getting David Stone's coming on campus this weekend. Like they're getting the top players on campus to take visits. I think you're extremely excited. If you're a Florida fan, you might have to be patient for a year. But in 2024 and 2025, I think the future is really bright. Again, appreciate you guys checking us out. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. A couple crystal balls popping up for the Florida Gators. So Gator fans, if you do enjoy the content, lock in. We'll be talking some recruiting this month. It's going to be a busy one, and we'll talk to y'all later.